Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Randall Glading, and I am a professor at Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. I have recently written a book called The Qualities of a Master Teacher Today. What inspired me to write this book was looking back at my educational history and how the art of pedagogy and the role of the teacher has changed. When we look back 50, 60 years ago, many of our schools were very traditional. Our schools were built under the model of the Industrial Revolution. Many of our teachers went into teaching after returning from World War II in the GI Bill. So again, we had buildings that were built under the guise of the Industrial Revolution and individuals teaching in those schools with a military background. So what was teaching like back in the day? The teaching was lecture. The teacher involved passive students who sat there taking notes and were trained very well. The teachers gave information and the students received it. Now, teachers were not to blame at this time because let's look at what the world was like. Who knew everything about algebra? My ninth grade algebra teacher, Miss Budoff. She knew algebra and no one else did. Also, she gave us a textbook where the information about algebra was contained. Beyond that, there was no other form of information regarding algebra and no experts in the field of algebra. So teachers worked with what they had. The big thing back then, if you're looking at informing your children and giving them more information about history in the world, I'm sure we all remember. Parents bought the Encyclopedia Britannica and had it in their homes. So between the teacher, the textbook for a course, the Encyclopedia Britannica, if you were lucky enough to have it on your shelf, that is all of the information that we had growing up as children and the information that teachers had to work with. So let's fast forward it to today. Okay? We have the internet. There is so much information available to us at the click of a button. And the technologies today of communication between students, the world has really changed when it comes to teaching strategies and instruction. So today's modern teacher, today's quality teacher has to incorporate so many skills that were not required of teachers years ago. So in my book, I refer to an individual that we all may know. And this is a quote from this individual. "It is in fact nothing short of a miracle that the modern methods of instruction have not yet entirely strangled the holy curiosity of inquiry, for this delicate little plant, aside from stimulation, stands mainly in need of freedom. Without this, it goes to rack and ruin without fail." So we would think that this quote was current. We would think that this quote was made by a teacher today. Albert Einstein made that quote many, many years ago. So great thinkers like Albert Einstein identified good teaching, identified the need to elicit inquiry in our students. And if you look back in 1966 was when Bloom's taxonomy came out that identified knowledge as the lowest form of instruction. So I started this journey looking at what teachers do today in their classrooms. The book is set up so that one will always remember each chapter of the book. Because I set the book up, each chapter is a letter in an acronym. And the acronym is teachers. How easy to remember. At first I was going to do just teacher. And then I said I really need an S. And you'll see why. So if we go through the chapters of the book, it's very simple. Just keep the word teachers in mind. T is for technique. What technique do professionals use? What technique do professional tennis players, golfers, hedge fund managers use to be ultimately successful and at the top of their game? Critically important for teachers. The E stands for empathy. Now, some would say that years ago that teachers were not empathetic, but empathy has really come to the forefront because teachers are not only required to develop the academic capacities of their students, they're also required to build social and emotional support. That is one of the biggest roles, the role changes in a teacher today. A is assessment. We have to have assessment, but assessment needs to be looked at in many different ways. It's not just taking a test. It's not just taking a standardized test. Students can shine in so many different venues, and we need to assess students, okay, in the area of their strength. C is content. Teachers need to know their content. This is a basic tenet of becoming an effective teacher. You need to know your subject area. Okay? Then we go, the H is humor. We remember high school, remember those long 8-period days. They would be tedious. H is humor. We remembered that teacher that had a great sense of humor, that gave us a breath of fresh air during a long, tedious day. The next E is energy. Teachers display energy in many different ways. It can be subtle, it could be outgoing, okay? And each teacher that really excels has some form of energy that the students understand and can absorb. And this is something that's not really put in a lot of evaluations, but it's critical if you want to be a master teacher today. The R is relationships. Most successful teachers have wonderful relationships with their students. Whenever there's a behavior problem with a student, we talk about behavior management. The bottom line is the teacher does not have a relationship with that student. Yes, students come to our classrooms with a multitude of problems, and it's the teacher's responsibility to build a relationship with them, to get them through the day, and to make them a better person. And the S, like I said, I needed an S. The S is for style. Every teacher has their own style. Teaching is being a performer. Okay? In a high school teacher's career, they will do 27,000 performances, 27,000 lessons. Therefore, okay, they need to really make it part of who they are, and style is just critically important. And there's no one style that's correct. So in closing, I would just like to say that each chapter embodies a quality of a teacher today that's critical. And the last thing I'd like to mention is, who is this book for? This book is for teachers in the classroom today, so that they can put it in their top right-hand drawer, pull it out occasionally and say, wow, let me look at empathy again, or let me look at the relationships I have with students. It's also made for teachers, individuals who are in undergraduate studies wanting to become a teacher. It's critical for them to understand they need to start building their own style. They need to look at the strength of reflection, okay, and really look at all of these attributes of a teacher. And last but not least, this book is for parents, because parents and grandparents are the child's first teacher. So when a parent looks at this book, they can look at instructional strategies, they can look at exploration, they can say, is this why my child is emptying out the pots and pans in my kitchen cabinet? Yes, because children explore, children want to be inquisitive and look at the surroundings in which they live. So again, the book is for everyone. Okay? Thank you very much and have a great day.